Hello, Milwaukee. Welcome back to River West Radio. I am your host, Christopher Rose. And this is another episode of Odyssey Local Artist Interviews, better known as OLAi, a live streaming internet radio talk show available to listen to at www.riverwestradio.com on Thursdays from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. every week. We bring in artists who get to know them and their perspectives on what's happening in the city and its creative culture. Today's featured artist is Vanessa Andrew, better known as Madame Chino in the design and fashion world. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Chris.
How you doing today?
All right. A little warm?
A little warm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry we don't have a nice big blower fan
No,
for you.
that's okay. I'm chill.
Right on. Right on.
I'm cool enough
Cooling
to
out?
keep cool.
Right on. I've been telling people all day, as they pass by and we greet and, say our dues, stay cool, but don't catch a cold. So if you're out there in Milwaukee, everybody, stay cool, don't catch a cold. But anyways, first of all, I wanted to thank you, Vanessa, for coming down to the show. I appreciate you taking time out of your schedule and coming down here to share some things that you've been doing independently and just out in Milwaukee.
Of course. Well, I wanted to come out and talk with you, and obviously I owe you one for modeling in my fashion show for me, Chris. So.
Oh, perfect. Oh my gosh.
It's a little payback too.
All right. That was a lot of fun. I had so much fun. Can you tell those out there who are tuned in what that show was about, where it was? Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Actually, this was my 7th annual fashion show at UWM, and I teach the basic sewing class in the Craft Center, which is a wonderful place to have in our community.
Mm-hmm.
It started in the 70s by a teacher that I had for one of my first classes, and Judy Golombowski is now teaching somewhere else. I'm not so sure where she is, but her legacy lives on with the Craft Center and community and students. It's open to everybody for a small membership fee. I think maybe 30 to $90. I'm not sure exactly what the prices are, but
is that
you can
student or strictly student?
It's cheaper for students and then a little bit more for community members, but not much more for the resource that it is. There's a full dark room to do developing. They have a jewelry lab, sewing machines that everybody can use, some free supplies. There's for a small, probably close to wholesale price, you can get supplies to do using their potter's wheels and kiln and so forth. So
They have a kiln as well?
Oh yeah.
How big is it?
They have 2 pretty big kilns and then about 5 or 6 potter's wheels that people go in and spin on.
Just show up with a brick of clay and there's...
Or you can buy the clay from them.
Okay.
Yep. They have jewelry, wire, and all of the things.
So you're teaching classes there during the regular school semesters?
No, it's independent of that, and I think we don't do the winter, but we do spring, summer, and fall.
Okay.
And then it's a 5-week class, around $80.
Okay.
For most of the classes there, they run really neat stuff, and there's always other people in there outside of the classes doing their projects and so forth. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's a really great place, a resource for everybody. And I was originally teaching a watercolor class there for the first couple of years. Probably started about 10 years ago now. Holy moly! And then they actually got a couple of sewing machines and recruited me to do that class. So I was, of course, more than happy to start teaching that one.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. So there's all kinds of mediums for people to mess around, and that's located over on East Kenwood.
Yeah, 3400 block of Maryland. I think maybe it's a 3300 block of Maryland.
In the UWM,
Yep,
UW Milwaukee Union.
That large Union Concourse area is where the people...
And that's exactly where your fashion show took place, just outside of the Craft Center there.
Right, and that was kind of incorporated with their... they do a lot of green-related programming for the union, and so this was part of the Earth Week project. Nice. And so some of my students who had work ready for the show would enter it into the fashion show, and then just because that sometimes can be a little spotty, I make sure to have the full show going, and so every year I have about between 12 and 13 models, male and female. So it's about 24 to 26 models in my show alone, and then in addition, whoever else has work to show. And then all of my work is reconstructed from used and recycled clothing. Upcycling is, I guess, the newer industry term for not fully taking apart and redoing everything, but just rearranging more.
Yeah, excellent.
And adding new parts to it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so that's all in conjunction with everything, and that's my main show that I do every year, and it kind of keeps me rolling as far as keeping inspired and keeping on top of, getting new stuff out.
Yeah,
and so
that's
forth.
an excellent spot to have locked down. It was a really good time. We had live drum circles there, a couple members from De La Buena, I believe David Wake, and I think Julio Pabon. Cecilia was there.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know if they both were. Sometimes those boys.
Yeah, no, they switch them out every year, but they've been doing it every year since I started the show with Linda Corbin Pardee, who's the union programming manager, and so yeah, it's really neat. They do the drumming. I mean, I'm sure there's other drummers as well that they're part of the.
If I'm not
dance
mistaken,
department.
sorry, I didn't mean to.
No,
I think if not mistaken, when we were there this last time, some gentleman walked in to the show and sat down with a hand drum, up full on. He didn't just have a little bongo with. He had like the djembe with him, I think, and he just sat down and
started jamming out with them. It was great. Yeah,
it was cool. It was really cool.
So you can watch the video of the show on YouTube if you just search Madam Chino, and it's spelled M-A-D-A-M with no E, and then C-H-I-N-O. And I think I have about 2 or 3 recordings from the years gone by. It's always hard to find videographers for some reason for me.
Sure. No, that is far and few between here.
Sometimes, I don't know.
Which is a little bit ironic because there's actually a fairly, well-reputed film school at UWM.
That's true. I should probably put up a little film student request or something like that.
Talk to those guys. Maybe make something work.
Yeah.
But let me ask you, is every year, so this is a 7th annual one that you just did recently that I got to participate in, and has it always been under the name Madam Chino? And where did that come from?
My personal label is Madam Chino. I was involved with the group Fasten Co-op Clothing Gallery or Fasten Collective, which actually started in my living room with my best friend from high school when we were just probably 19 or 20. So that was about 10, 12 years ago now. And we started that just at the Eastside Open Market, which is where I am still doing selling of my clothes and stuff beyond my shop.
Yeah.
What was your original question? How did I come up with Madam Chino?
Yeah, I'm just curious.
Well,
where did that come from?
it's a little bizarre. I found a T-shirt that said Madam Chino on it at the thrift store, which I was, obviously there to collect things to reconstruct, and I thought upcycle. Exactly. And I thought, who is this Madam Chino character? It was white, velvety white iron-on letters on a teal shirt, and I reconstructed it and I wore it, and I was like,
sounds fancy.
I'm gonna look it up on Google, and I Googled it, and nothing came up, and I thought maybe it was a character in a play, or I don't know, but it wasn't the first T-shirt I'd ever upcycled, but I used to tell everybody that. Really though, I just wore it, and I thought, I'm Madam Chino now, and so that was that. It was the end of it. I was like, that's my name. I had another name for 2 weeks, and everybody was pronouncing it wrong when they read it, so I scratched it.
Back to Madam Chino.
Yeah.
Right on.
It was actually Tydell.
And
then in high school, it was Olive.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I like Olive.
Because olives are an emblem.
Like Popeyes. Belonged, loved.
Well, it could have been that, actually. I've heard that I look like that cartoon lady sometimes.
Oh,
sometimes. Olive is actually an emblem of peace, like an olive tree. I read that somewhere, and I thought...
It is. It's the universal symbol of peace. You can find it in many scriptures, to many cultures, as a... they did, actually, a long time ago, in moments of battle, when things were kind of... coming to more of a common ground, I guess. They would use that as a way to wave off at a branch of olives. Yeah, and then it later turned into a white flag.
Interesting.
The color white just represented, purity and sort of neutralism, and so and you can actually see olive branches on a lot of currency throughout the world too, not just U.S. dollars, but other ones as well. I don't know exactly what money and peace got to do with it, but it's kind of interesting though. So
Yeah, totally.
so you kind of
I
came
don't
with
know
that.
why I changed it from that to begin with, but I was a little entrepreneurial in high school, and
That's excellent.
yeah, my first business idea actually found the writing that I had for it, and I did my business proposal on. It was called the Butterfly Club,
Ooh.
and it was basically in the third ward, and well, in my mind, in the third ward. And it was a same thing I'm doing now.
Yeah.
It was a upcycling sort of thing, but it was also including furniture. So it was a team of artists, a group of artists working independently together and upcycling old things.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
You
so
believe it, you perceive it, and then you achieve it, and it just kind of happens. You know, like
yeah, that's awesome.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
That you kind of just set me back even for myself. I remember also being in elementary or junior high years and being with friends and be like, oh, we want to move to a city and get a skyrise loft and just do art out of it all day, And although I'm not in a skyrise, I still have this nice loft I'm sharing with friends and creating things. It's kind
awesome.
of funny how you
Yeah.
sort of prescript yourself sometimes.
Well, every
like
time I see what I'm doing, I kind of just look back and have another, like, where did this start? And it's always planted a seed from a long time ago. Nothing really just came out of the blue for me, really.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of things, opportunities I just stumbled into, but probably because I was walking on that path to begin with. So I think my earliest memory of thinking of what I wanted to do, I wanted to be a secretary, which was funny, but I was sitting in a hamper sorting colored paper, which is funny because my room is like a big hamper, and I'm sorting through colors of T-shirts all the time.
That's
so
funny. I was just gonna ask you, what was your first taste of this sort of entrepreneurial?
Well, beyond that, I wanted to do. Besides that, was like when I was 5 or whatever. My first business, besides what I was telling you, my plan was the ideas. I was making these fairy boxes, and I know that's strange, but had collections, a lot of collections as a child. I was very much about kitschy little things.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I collected tons of knickknacks. I was very knickknacky, and I thought, I don't need these anymore. What can I do with them? So I put these special boxes, and I would arrange them in the boxes and be like, now you have a new little home. And then I was trying to, I thought, if I collect enough of these little fairy boxes, I'll be able to sell them.
Oh.
But I never did that.
Look at you, how young, just thinking about selling boxes.
Fairy items, yeah. So then what I did is I went to college at UWM for painting and drawing, and I don't know, my fibers kind of came out of me as more of this abstract expressionist quilting type of thing with different colors of T-shirts, and I related it to the painting and the textural, like the high relief texture of the abstract expressionist paintings, and then I thought this makes more sense to do clothing because it's more accessible to the public. I really don't know rich people, and I don't want to kiss anyone's butts. And
no thanks.
Right. So I was like, this is great. I can sell these for a reasonable price, and there's some more people who need them. It's a practical utilitarian item. And I think that, the hard part about that is people think, oh, this is not fine art anymore because it's now in the mode of the mundane, and so whatever. I mean, that bothered me for a little while because I thought, what does that mean? Like, there's less value on the work that I'm putting into
Everybody has so many definitions for so many of these words that they just put in a book called the dictionary, and I don't quite frankly like to dwell upon anybody's one more than another.
Definition of it, yeah. I mean, that's always been a little bit iffy to me, but
sure.
It's really about what people value your work.
That's right.
At.
You have to you take all those critiques, both light and dark, and try to, arrange.
And it's about the context that you put it into. And I've been realizing that a lot more as an artist who is more about making my work and not really about the marketing aspect of it. That's always been my big challenge. And my theory was more that people should just get used to looking at trash because then they would stop buying new stuff.
Excellent.
Like if they started to maybe just like the look of sort of grungy things, then maybe they would stop buying new things
Yeah.
and constantly having to feed that need for newness. And I don't know, I came to terms a little bit with some things. I had an epiphany in my studio one day where I was so just like my eyes couldn't rest on anything because I had so much garbly, puzzly looking stuff. And I went through with a bucket of gray paint and just covered everything that was unnecessary texture to look at. And there's that art term called horror vacui, where it's bombardment, basically, like in The Clockwork Orange, where they force your eyes open and you cannot rest them on it. There's no focal point. So I was having a hard time just getting anything done because I would be bombarded with these other projects that were always in my face, and then
absolutely
no rest for my eyes. So I just went through with that gray paint, and I sort of started to appreciate a little bit more that modern
of the texts of the mediums that you're actually working with too, and not having the distraction.
Well, right, that I could just focus on them, more than and have that distraction gone. With where we're at, like contemporaryism aside, like modern and postmodern seem to be kind of the dichotomy of what we're living in still. And do you like that clean look, or do you appreciate the history of it as a visual presence? And I've always been a postmodernist in that way, where like I liked that you could see how it was made and that the transformation was visible, and that somehow that like made it maybe less valuable to people who had this modernist view, and they would spend a lot of money for it to look clean and erase the history of it, and know more about engines and upward mobility and so forth. So I don't know. I mean, my mind is coming to a little bit more of terms with
that classical appeal versus that postmodern industrial
messiness. Then I don't know about industrial, because I feel like the industrialism was like the engines and all of that was something like clean like a whistle, and if I could get my hands on more industrial things, then I would have cleaner, faster, more the same type of stuff, where I could deal with doing a production line and so forth, where I was more one of a kind, unique, handmade, and I'm coming out of a place where as a teenager there wasn't a lot of places to purchase unique clothing. It was really at the mall. There was no H&M, there was no American Apparel, obviously. There was no Urban Outfitters, and it was mainly like the Gap and the Limited were the two main stores that most kind of people shopped, unless you were thrifting, and maybe Target or something. Or
sure.
So, well, I just didn't like I had to look like everybody. So that was my instinct initially, and then I came into that. But I think these days there's a lot more availability of, cheaper clothes that have some unique quality to them, or at least touch on not just like this preppy thing, but more of an independent look or feel to it. You know what I mean? Even though these people are buying from H&M or Urban Outfitters, they still get this sense to themselves that they're part of an independent culture. Maybe it's just the youth culture, I'm just not sure, but mine was more, I'm trying to be independent here, and indie, and all that music and all of that just culture, indie culture kind of was blowing up right around the time when I was around 20 or so. That was where I was coming from, out of that place. But I think these days it's easier to get your hands on stuff that's unique, that you can buy in stores. So I've had a harder time touching.
The market has certainly changed from when you were younger, and also transitioning from where did you come from versus, are you from Milwaukee originally?
I am from Milwaukee.
Okay, from Milwaukee originally.
And I have not moved.
And you've seen that right, in the heart of it, how it's changed from back in the day with the more commercialistic accessibility versus now, like sort of that culture of kind of more unitary, like kind of like collective abstract works as far as like design principles go, I guess. Um, that's really interesting that you mentioned that, because there are in Milwaukee in general a lot of places where you can go thrifting now. I think that didn't used to exist as much, and some places that are kind of incorporating some more sort of like you said
Vintagey
upcycled
style.
vintage style stuff, which is really pretty interesting. But I can imagine how does that affect you as an independent artist? Um,
Right. Well, that was a big change actually just a couple years ago. I feel like more around 2 years ago was when I felt like the real hit. And maybe that had to do with the economy and stuff. And there was a bit of a bitter, chip on my shoulder for a minute, but I embrace it because obviously I've been doing it for my whole life.
hmm.
And, it's good because it's recycled stuff too. So people should be buying secondhand and they should be buying vintage. And my philosophy as a teacher has always been to share with other people how to do it themselves too, because that was where DIY, well, that's what that meant. Like to me, it was like, I'm not going to hoard these secrets. Either you buy it from me or you do it yourself. That's what I want you to do. So when people can say I can do that, well, good. Go do it.
Yeah, please, I encourage you.
Yeah. So and I always have shared my secrets. I write. I started writing zines when I was doing more with my teaching. I would write tutorials for the students, and so they're actually in.
So you actually have a zine that you produce with your classes?
Yes.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. So
I was not aware of that.
Oh yeah. Well, I have another subdivision of my personality called Penny Spencer, which is the publishing, self-publishing.
Excellent.
And I'm gearing towards trying to do like ebooks, because I was about to buy a bunch of barcodes one day and thought, man, I don't know what I should do, if I should do this or not. But thank God I didn't, because everything is moving towards reading books online,
digital everything,
publishing. So
that's really interesting. You see that niche in the in the kind of authorial realm as well.
Well, yeah, and I'm not sure exactly how to navigate entirely through it, but there's definitely it seems easier, and it seems like it kind of cuts out part of the middleman experience of having that publisher, and that's why I wanted to self-publish. Well, I was doing it anyway, but yeah, so I don't know, that's kind of the avenue with the Penny Spencer stuff. My painting and drawing was very much based on narrative work. I liked narrative. I felt like it gave meaning to whatever I was doing, put some storytelling into it. And so I was about comics. I like writing little funny comics as a way to cope with life, and then so now my zines are kind of in a comic book format, and I study comics.
Can you tell people that are listening that are unfamiliar with the term zines what that generally?
It's short for magazine, right? It's like it's a kind of a little booklet of sorts that you can mostly people trade them.
Usually graphic novelistic.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of comic format, but also people just do read about whatever, collage, and there's typing and any kind of thing. Actually, it's just as broad as you can kind of imagine it to be. And Milwaukee has a really great zine fest. Goes on usually between October and December. It's usually held at the Polish Falcon.
Oh.
And I've been working with
Polish
them.
Falcon right over in River West. That's located on right.
What is that street? Fratney.
And
whatever one block south is. I'm so bad.
Fratney and Clark.
Clark. Good
there
job.
it is, Polish Falcon. I didn't know they had a zine festival there. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and then they have the workshops for the zine fest at the CCC, and there's kind of also a lot of different businesses.
Cream City Collective right over there on that corner as well.
Yeah, they do a breakfast at one of the places around here. I think the River West Film and Video's even been involved in some of the activities that they hold outside of the actual festival. So pretty cool. People travel up from Chicago and wherever.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So, but and that's a lot more. The culture of that seems to be a lot more just about getting information out rather than trying to make money
Mm-hmm.
on your zines or whatever.
Right.
So it's kind of just a great alternative media
Yeah.
for, moving information. And
Yeah. Excellent.
yeah.
Nice.
So that's where my painting and drawings kind of gone into, is doing these tutorials and zines and so forth, and trying to move that into the realm. And then at this point, my clothing stuff is changing kind of quite a bit, because not really in terms of what I'm doing, but maybe more about how I'm getting it done. And I'm just trying to do a little bit more industrial sort of size things. Cut in here if you have a question that you were gonna say. I'm not sure.
Oh no, that's fine. No, I was actually gonna it's a little bit maybe off topic, but what sort of work have you done recently that's more collaborative, or have you done any collaborative pieces, whether it's in painting or in your zines or in illustration?
Well, actually, this is tying right into where I was going to go with this, but that's great angle on it, because what I've been doing is pretty much just what I'm, my work, particularly my designs and but um, I work out of the Fortress building, and I'm on I have a shop in there.
Fortress, a legendary fortress downtown in Milwaukee. That's a really, really neat building.
Just north of the downtown in Bruce Hill, yeah, on First and Pleasant.
The Fortress.
Yeah, it's really big, and there's a few bigger businesses in there, and then and a lot of artist studios. And I have two spaces. One is my shop, and that's where I store all of the finished work and etc. vintage that I'm selling. And then I do some like online uploading of stuff online from there. And then in the upstairs, that's on the third floor. 100A is the address. If you're ever there on a Saturday, right now I'm at
what street?
East Pleasant Street.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. No, maybe I forgot to say
100A
that.
East Pleasant Street. That's the Fortress.
Yep, that's my third floor door for the shop, and then on the fifth floor, I have another workspace, and there's a lot of artists in that whole way. And it just so happened I was really lucky 2 years ago when I moved in to meet this lady who I already knew because she was a sewer, and get to know her a little better. Her name's Julie Ruplinger, and she's a River Westerner. And she had bought, when Canvasbacks closed down in a couple years ago, and they've been having like blowout sales. I think they had their final one maybe 6 months ago. She was able to get 4 of their industrial machines for a very good price. And she's been working on industrial machines since then. I don't know how she had her wits about her to do all this, but she got these machines, and then she went and had these motors switched out because they weren't they were on 3-phase.
Well, polish up.
Yeah, so she got these new motors installed in them, and they're just amazing. And she spends way less time in the studio than me, but
What
she
kind
seems
of things
to
do
be
these
getting...
industrial design machines produce? What do they use
Well, let me give you an example. Well, I guess the main difference between that and a household machine is obviously the speed. And then second is that they are, because they're so specialized to do a certain thing, that's really all they do. So if I want this type of seam, I'm going to get this type of machine. If you ever go, I was very amazed, I think on Discovery Channel, they have, which I watched on YouTube, a video on how they make jeans, denim pants. And every single machine that they have is in these factories is a different one for each step of the process. And I was just really impressed with the fact that they have obviously these intensely specified tasks for the machines, and just how fast they go. So, well, she's got these machines, and I've been looking at them obviously with green eyes, and she allowed me to use one day because I'm interested and wanted to buy one. Something that takes me 3 hours on my tabletop household machine. Half of it, to do half, took me 20 minutes.
20 minutes. Wow.
So from 3-hour task to 40 minutes is cutting my time in way less than a third.
There is why the machine is taking over.
So, yeah. So I've been looking for this exact machine that I want to get. It's taking me a little bit of time to track it down because I want to try to find it used and somewhere in the area, but from what I've been hearing, the one that I want is difficult to find used, and also the new price is about $2,500.
Holy
which
tamales.
I'm totally willing to put in because I'm just so excited about this. It's like getting a brand new race car or something for me. And
this is a business investment.
But even if it weren't to be like necessarily fruitful, I would still
enjoy the
and be
pleasure
so
of
happy
having,
with the fact that I was doing this job
What's
for me.
What's up, production?
So Julie and I are going to do these. We're collaborating on a phantom business called the Op, which is our
phantom business called Op. That is the thing right there.
That's it.
Slogan.
The Op, yep. And
nice.
We have these side-by-side studios, and I'm still waiting to get this machine, but we're going to just get this started right away. We're basically collaborating on 8 designs, very basic tank top, basic dress, basic skirt, shorts, whatever kinds of basic items we can think of, and hammer out the designs for them that will reuse the parts of the t-shirts. And then I recently traveled to New York and found, after I'd already planned the trip there, found a textile recycling plant right outside of the city, made an appointment, and toured the factory, which was incredible to see the way that these recyclers are doing their job. And I guess what happens is that the woman who was out there, she runs the vintage department, and so vintage sellers have a minimum. If they want to go there, they pay $1,500, and they get to sort through all their vintage all day.
Yeah, that sounds
for 7.5 hours.
Like a
pull whatever they want, and then they weigh it by the pound. Now their minimum for I don't know what the pounds weigh out. Like what that looks like for that type of thing. Obviously they would be like boots or heavier.
It depends on the material. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So, but the vintage people, their minimum is $1,500. For a person like me who's remaking things, my minimum is $500. So I went there, and with a friend, we took the bus from the city, the Port Authority in downtown Manhattan. We took a bus at 6:30 in the morning. We got there around 7:30. We got started. The lady had pulled these.
It's like going into Willy Wonka's factory.
Exactly, and I was like just so enthralled. She was like, "You can take pictures, but don't take pictures of the workers. They're kind of weird about it." But I just got this is what happened. They rolled these big crates on wheels. They're 6 feet wide, 4 feet deep, 6 feet tall, big panel plywood doors on them. They wheel us one full one and one empty one with a fabric bin in the middle and a large tabletop with masonite top table to sort on. So we rip off the plywood doors, and my friend and I have some colors chosen that we're going to do the line out of. And we basically just start tossing these shirts, what we want and what we don't want, in the ones we want in the fabric bin, and the other ones just swimming. Just like that, because your arms are both moving.
Oh my gosh.
And the factory got really warm, and it's really hot. And the town is a lot of different factories, so they had one guy catering. All of the different factories had different break times, and the one truck would go around, and they bring food, and the people can buy it if they want. And we spent the entire day there with a half-an-hour lunch break with the rest of the factory. We got out of there at 3. Without stopping, it took me 3 hours to hoard 200 pounds.
Hey.
So I didn't even make my minimum, which was 300, because I think partially I was not sure about the speed and the process of doing this.
Or how much each thing weighed.
Right, and not sure what that looked like and what I was getting out of it. So she allowed me to slide on my first run and just allowed me to get the 200 instead of the
200 pounds of clothes.
T-shirts, which came actually today in the mail.
Oh,
the
how
UPS
exciting.
truck driver came, and I have not busted open these compressed.
What are you doing after this?
Well, I'm afraid because she said it's gonna explode when I cut the straps.
That's so exciting. Can we film it?
I shouldn't I? Yeah, I will. I'll actually do that, and maybe I'll upload it on YouTube.
Definitely. Just slow-mo, big box just bursting.
Yeah.
200 pounds of teas.
Yeah, it's
Oh
so
my
insane.
gosh. Oh my gosh.
So, right, I mean, I'm definitely, she said, so in that 7 hours, we went through 5 or 6 of the crates that I described originally. We went through 5 or 6 of those. It took us all day.
How
And
big
she
were
said,
those crates about?
It's 6 feet wide,
Whoa.
6 feet tall, and 4 feet deep on wheels.
Wow.
And she said that they were filling them as fast as we were going through them.
You guys were literally swimming through these things.
Swimming, and she said they
Liquid
processed
cotton.
30. I think what was it? There was a big number. It was like 30 tons a day.
Oh my gosh.
Really neat to see how they work, though, and it's so cool to know that there's a place that's actually doing this type of thing. There was about 5 aisles, probably a block's length long, of double-stacked boxes of specific types of vintage clothing sorted. Nice. And then the rest of it kind of either was, I was reading the statistics, it's like 40% of stuff is turned to rags, 40 of it is reused for clothing, and then the other 2% are either, I think, or the other 2 sets of 10% are used for, like, some factories will actually reclaim the fiber itself, so they'll shred it and do some other stuff. I know that people use, like, reclaimed denim for insulation and so forth. So it's actually a really big industry of textile recycling, and I was just gonna say,
what an interesting thing to wake up and do. You think you woke up and had an interesting day? Imagine just dealing with thousands of pounds of different fabrics from all over the world.
Right.
Constantly. That's really interesting.
Yeah, it was really beautiful. And the textures of the industrial world, like just to see the bins and the, because it's like you'll see the one thing, but the impact is so much larger when you see the texture of many of these types of things sitting next to each other. So there was the crates, and there was the bales, and there was the, you know, the weird fabric coming out of boxes, just like multiplied by like hundreds, thousands, you know, just.
Oh my gosh.
So actually, I'm going to be having a blog post about it pretty soon on my blog.
So did you said you planned your trip without
knowing that? Well, I was planning to go out to New York to visit a friend.
Well, icing on the cake?
Yeah, well, it turned out, like, I had looked around a bit for a textile recycling plant, and it seems so bizarre, but a lot of the places just hand you a mixed bag. So for $500, you'd send me a box of shirts. But I don't know what I'm getting.
Yeah, that's
I was able to actually not only pick the colors, but I was able to feel each of the fabrics and throw the ones that were real thick off to the side. Like, I wanted to have the nicest things I could get.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I was able to get hands-on with it, and that was the first company that I was able to get that kind of service at, you know, that I was able to find. So I'm not going to tell everybody who it was.
No, but I was just going to say, if you'd like to, any fabric and or design creators in the neighborhood or in the area that would like to get their hands on some very unique fabrics, you can contact Madam Chino.
Yeah, we'll discuss it. I will be open to discussing. But, you know, it's definitely something that I'm just saying this because, not because I'm coveting it really, but it's definitely a choice I had to make because I'm coming to terms with this processing more fabric, you know? Like, this wouldn't be a choice to make for somebody who was, you know, just doing a few things. Like, I spend 3 days a week going to thrift stores to get the shirts that I need, where now I have all of that and I can avoid all of the trucking around town, time, energy, money, gas, etc., and just get to work. So I'm trying to be more efficient and hone and huddle.
What are some of the other tools that you use when you're producing stuff from the beginning of an idea, laying it down on paper with pencil, to the end when your friend is walking down the street with a
Well, I think for
article.
people who like who are interested in doing clothing and stuff, I feel like the biggest step for me was getting a dress form, and I literally found a ping pong table on the side of the road and dragged it into my house to have a very large surface to work on.
A dress form.
A dress form and a large surface to work on, and then with that large surface, I was able to get those self-healing mats and a rotary cutter, which is like a pizza cutter for fabric.
Okay.
From that point on, all you have to do is if you're just interested in, I like this, I want to make it, well, take that and just trace it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's definitely some things that you could get to assist you, but besides that self-healing mat, that rotary cutter, a nice big surface,
What
and
is
a
a
dress form.
self-healing mat?
It's like a you know, a mat that basically you cut in it and it doesn't ruin the cutting board.
Okay.
And it doesn't ruin the knife because
Yeah.
it's sort of soft, but it
Yeah.
actually melds back together.
Oh, interesting.
It doesn't always meld back together, but it doesn't fall apart.
Okay, so it's sort of like the culinary's, like the cook's cutting board is to what the
Right.
healing mat is for the designer.
For any kind of paper, paper cutting. Type
Paper
of
or
stuff.
cloth
Paper
material.
or cloth,
Okay.
yeah.
Interesting. And then the other thing that you had mentioned was a form. A dress form. What is that?
I've heard people making them with duct tape and plaster, but like it's just a form that's like your body, but it's on a stand or you put it on a table. It's usually, if you get the store-bought ones, they're adjustable. Definitely the newer ones are better because they have knobs for waist, bust, and hips. And the old-fashioned ones that you buy at thrift stores or find at estate sales or rummage sales, they usually these tiny little panels. So by the time you get it expanded, there's a lot of gap space in between these sort of floating panels. I don't know. You probably can maybe visualize that, but might be kind of hard. It's just it's a form to work on, to drape items off of the fabric. You pin it into the form, and then sort of it takes shape on that thing. If you're trying to build it on yourself, it's obviously difficult to look in the mirror, pin behind your back, and pin it on yourself. So, and then you're obviously always taking it on and off, or you can just leave it on the form and see it as it grows.
So those are the main things. That and a nice good sewing machine.
Yes,
whether home edition or industrial.
Yeah, my mom always said to me, she said, it's not fun to sew when you don't have a machine that works good.
Yeah, no.
Well, okay, that's probably why I don't like this right now, because the machine stinks.
Wow.
At the time. So when I finally got a really great working machine, which is a good investment. My first machine, I bought another one of the same one. It's a Janome, and I don't know, I just tend to like it. I've been afraid of the computerized machines. I just think that if something goes wrong digitally, who knows how to fix that, so I'm not sure. Maybe there's people, but I go to Milwaukee Sewing Machine Company for almost all of my sewing needs. They're really awesome there, those people, and there's a couple ladies who've helped me deliberate for hours over which features I wanted, and they're pretty smart. And then what happens is they have a 1-year guarantee on the machine, and if you take a class from them about the machine and the functions and the feet and all that, then they extend your warranty for another year.
Oh, that's pretty nice.
You get a 2-year warranty, you get a class, and it's actually in the neighborhood. It's not too far. It's in West Dallas. It's on 72nd and Greenfield Avenue.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's not too far away from the MATC down there, I believe.
Right there.
Or I-94.
And a few blocks down from State Fair.
In the neighborhood, right down there from State Fair. That's really interesting.
Yeah, so I always recommend that to people, and then those ladies are super great.
What's the name of their place?
Milwaukee Sewing Machine Company.
Okay, just wanted to.
Yeah, and they do have industrial machines on consignment there from other businesses. When we used to.
That's very good information.
When we used to have, Milwaukee used to have a garment district, apparently in the sort of 3rd Ward, 5th Ward area.
Yeah.
And when that all kind of fell apart, I think, some of those machines stayed in Milwaukee, and people pick them up and use them. So.
Yeah, that's really awesome.
Yeah.
Anything coming up this summer that you're especially excited about in the city here, with maybe some of your own projects or some of your affiliates or friends or families?
Hi. Well, I'm just trying to think. I watched this really funny show. Maybe you've heard of it. It's called Luxury Comedy.
Luxury Comedy? No, I have not watched.
A friend of mine told me to look it up, and he showed me one episode. I think you have to get it like on subscription or something like that. But it's a really funny TV show about like sort of this guy's head, and it to me reflected something like Pee-wee's Playhouse's refrigerator. Remember when you opened the fridge in Pee-wee's Playhouse and it was like this crazy party? It seems a bit like that. Well, anyway, I've been trying to get I've been trying to move from my tutorial zine world into more maybe like I thought, oh, that would be so much fun to do how-to videos. And then I was really inspired by this luxury comedy show. So we'll see. I've actually been like in my mind, in my mental mind, I've been brainstorming a lot about what that would be like, because I don't really want it to be like just any old how-to video.
Right. It's going to have a twist.
Yeah.
You're going to squeeze a lime on
right.
it. Make it different,
So I had already made up a little theme song jingle for it a while back.
Uh-oh.
And
can we hear it?
Yes, you can. It's,
Wait, for real? Oh, give it to us.
It's craft time cinema with Madame Chino. Get out your pen and take notes.
Oh.
What do you want to try? We'll make it you and I. Gather materials and put them in a pile. We'll go through the steps, trial and error, do our best. It's craft time cinema with Madame Chino. Cut out these shapes with your X-Acto.
Oh, that's lovely.
Thank you.
Awesome.
I have a friend.
And she writes jingles. People, get a hold of Madame Chino. She does a lot.
I have I write songs too. That's another thing that I haven't really been public about, but I have a MySpace for my songs. It's been up since 2008.
That was the raw version, by the way. There's a refined version.
No, I don't have that one up on the internet or anything like that quite yet. But I don't know. I've thought about maybe just like I've never played out. I've played for small groups of people, like 2 or 3 in a room. But that's something else I kind of wanted to get out there a little bit more. Even if I just have like my CD to sell, like pressed, I have recorded all of my songs, like a lot of them, and it's just a matter of kind of refining a few of them and getting some cover art. Like I really am just kind of like in raw mode. Yeah. With all of this, I don't want it to be like overthought too hard. Yeah. So I want to do this TV show with my friend Celeste, who's up in the Fortress with me on another studio flatmate up there. So I'm trying to get together with these people who I'm already, in sync with, and get some work done with them, because
that's awesome.
Why not?
Absolutely. Let me ask you this: say you're walking down the street from River West here, perhaps in Gordon Park, just taking a stroll along the riverside's wooded edge that you can so do down here, and you come across another person coming down the path, and you engage in conversation, and by the end of the conversation, this person offers you a grant of X amount of dollars for you to play with. If you had funding for what you're doing, what would be something that you definitely would look into including in what you're already doing?
Well, it's interesting, because if somebody were to just give me the grant without me asking for it, I would have different plans than if I were actually writing for a grant. I feel like if I were to do the writing for it, it would be about this video, because...
Yeah, nobody just gives grants, by the way.
No.
You do have to try to get them.
I feel like the video is more relevant to what's going on in the world right now, just because it's on time and, in that continuum of time and space, as far as like visualizing things and seeing start to finish some sort of chronology happening, and it's also very narrative, which is something I like. But I think that would be something a little bit, and plus, helping other people do things themselves, and learning and education is all kind of wrapped up into that purpose of that. So I would say that if I had to write for it, I would have to get a few of those ones out and then see if I could, maybe make a proposal, just because I'd need to know that that's what track I was on. And of course, then I would use the money to not, like maybe vamp it up a bit with some materials and some equipment, but also to have the time to work on solely that. Yeah. On the other hand, if I were just to get money from the gods or whoever, I
the
would
River Wild Scouts?
probably, Julie and I have really been serious about doing this production, and I've had my own, when I had online shop a little bit more active, I had a lot of people asking me for work that they wanted me to send out to them. So I just didn't do it because most of the time I was sure I couldn't produce what they wanted and, get that sort of consistency in the line. However, with Julie and being able to get these machines and then make a,
Yes.
put emphasis on the production aspect of it,
Yeah.
I'm sure that we would be able to produce what people were asking for. So
Mhm.
the demand seems to be there.
Yes.
And it's just a matter of doing that. So if there is that demand and we find that, obviously the money would go to setting up a new space for employing people to help us with the production.
That's it. That's very good. Very
Yeah.
Good. And let me ask you something else. Just going off what you mentioned, as a fashion designer, how do you create a demand for? How would you recommend a new, I guess, person in the realm sort of start to build and discover that?
Well, obviously, I think I touched on this for a second here, but as an artist and as a person who doesn't like kissing ass, I've definitely, excuse me for saying that on the air.
Please.
I have marketing isn't my strong suit because that's kind of what marketing is all about.
Yeah.
It's about kissing other people's butts or making them think that you're great and they want creating a desire in them. And people like domestic things, people like feeling pretty, people like, sex sells or whatever, I just don't obviously put in a lot of thought on that end, and so like if I'm showing you my pictures, it's kind of raw. It's like this is what my studio looks like. This is what I make. This is where I make it, and that's not really marketing me in the way that I'm evoking desire out of people. So
because on the contrary, a lot of successful artists, and success I mean in different ways, have found that I think through just producing what they already are making, and other people are just attracted to it versus fitting their likings.
Right, and I
think sometimes that in turn is actually our way of building that sort of market or that
I think
demand.
there's certain people who are more interested in finding and looking at that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like there's something more in like that they appreciate this, making of the thing. I'm not sure. But I find that a lot of people who are super successful have really, really well thought out pictures, or they use, like Instagram's a way to put filters on your photographs to make them look a lot more, full of light or whatever. A lot of light in the photographs always does really good. As far as finding followings on the internet, like it seems as though you just have to have your presence there and really be like commenting on other people's photos. I think the trick to it too is about name dropping. You name drop other people, and then they return the favor and name drop you.
That's right.
And that's all that brown nosing thing, which was really disgusting to me.
Yeah, sure.
I am not about that, and so my blog is not showing other people's work and what I think about it.
Yeah.
It bothers me that people put up other people's work like I discovered this, like you're getting this sort of recognition for being a discoverer of someone else, and taking almost ownership for their work and their photographs, like where the people are like, oh, you found that, like, no, you didn't really find
It's been there.
It's
been happening. Actually, it's next door.
Right. So I'm not that type of person, so I don't have the best I don't have the biggest blog following. I don't drop other people's names. My blog is specifically about what I work on and what I do and how I do it. So I think that if people are attracted to maybe how to make things as well, then they would maybe like my blog and follow it. But other than that, I'm not like a name dropper. And so people who are in it for getting their name dropped aren't going to have me to look to,
Sure.
I think that's kind of how blog world works.
Yeah, definitely. That is, I think you're right. The focal point of social media is certainly that constant overlap networking mesh that is often overutilized, yet underappreciated by different communities of people. But it's just a machine again, and it's not a perfect one, but we all try to use it. I think at least try to dabble with it.
A good
you know.
place to document, what's going on with what your
Right.
what your interests are.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's wonderful how accessible it is for us as individuals to be able to do that. So let me ask you again, what was that saying that your mother used to tell you about the uh, most essential tool
She
to sewing?
said it's not fun to sew if you don't have a machine that works.
That's right. Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here. Thank you for tuning in today. This has been another episode of OLAi, Odyssey Local Artist Interviews, available every Thursday evening from 6 p.m. 7 p.m. It's a live streaming internet radio talk show. And I'd like to thank you again, Vanessa,
My
Andrew,
pleasure.
also known as Madam China, for stopping down.
Thank you so much.
All right, take care.